Hi, this is Glenda, and today I will be making a peaches and cream cold process soap. This is what the original sketch looked like and what I hope to achieve. First, I'm going to work on the embeds with some leftover soap that I'm using as soap dough. And first, I'm using a little bit, because it's very sticky, I have some cornstarch to help me work with it without it being too sticky. And I'm pretty much just rolling it and trying to shape it into what at first looks like a banana. But I'm pressing one end so that it looks more like a peach slice. And I'm also using a rocking motion on a straight surface to help with the curve. Then the spoon, I just use it to remove the core, which will be the place where the seed will normally be at. I also have some leftover red soap, and I'm going to use this to sort of smear it into the center of where the seed will be, which is in a regular peach where you will see these colors. And I'm also using small pieces to sort of smear it across where the skin will be. Then I'm using a pencil to sort of spread out that red soap dough or red soap, and I'm also using the pencil to help keep that curved shape inside. If you have sculpting tools, use them. Sometimes I'm just too lazy to go get them, and if I have something nearby that will do the same, I just use that, and in this case it was this pencil. Pretty much I'm just trying to spread out the red, and I cover it with some alcohol that makes it very slippery, but it's also helping me sort of diffuse the red in the yellow so that it has a more natural appearance of what a real peach slice would look like. This is what they look like, but I felt something was missing when I was comparing it to the pictures that I was using as a reference. So I grabbed some red mica. In this case, I'm using Trial by Fire from Nurture Soap. And I'm just using my fingers. I'm very tactile, so I like doing things with my fingers. If you have a brush, that will probably work better. But I'm pretty much just spraying my finger with alcohol, then dipping it into the mica, and with that I'm sort of painting on the edge of each slice so that it better simulates the skin of the peach, or in this case I think it actually looks more like a nectarine, but they're related, right? Now onto the making of the cold process soap. I have here the recipe and the fragrance, which is peaches and cream from Lone Star Candle Supply. And I'm going to include a link to the recipe in the description box in case you want to see what these oils are. I have warmed them up and they are at 102 Fahrenheit or 38 degrees Celsius. The light water solution is at 24 Celsius or 75 Fahrenheit, which for me is room temperature. This is pretty much distilled water mixed with light in advance until it cools back down to this temperature. And I'm adding it to the oils and just stirring them, giving them a good stir at the beginning. Later I will be using the stick blender to make sure that it starts emulsifying. This is my first time using this fragrance, so I'm not really sure how it reacts. So because of that, I'm gonna try to just bring this mix to emulsion. And the way I do that is that I like to use the stick blender for only a few seconds, maybe like 5-7 seconds, and then I just stir it with the stick blender for maybe 10 to 15 seconds. So I alternate between those two things, and it took me overall about 1.5 minutes to achieve emulsion. I'm checking the coating that it leaves on the shaft of the stick blender to see if it breaks apart or not. Another thing that I do is that I just look at the mixture to see if I can see oil still floating around separated from the water. And just overall I look at the mixture to make sure that it's an even color throughout. In here I can still see that it's breaking apart a little bit, so I gave it, but it's almost there, so I gave it another quick stir blend, and then I felt it had finally reached emulsion. So I decided to add the fragrance, and I was beginning to add the fragrance I only added a tiny little bit when I remembered that I needed to set some of the soap batter apart for the piping on top. The fragrance has vanillin, which means it's going to discolor to a brown color, and I didn't want the top to discolor, so I separated about 12 ounces for the top, and then I added the remaining fragrance amount to the rest. I will say that this fragrance smells really good. It smells just like peaches and cream. And so far it has been 1 month since I made this soap, and it's still strong in the soap bars. I hope it stays strong because peach is a fragrance that tends to fade in cold process soap. I'm using a spatula to blend the fragrance in, just in case it causes rising or acceleration. So far, it seems to be behaving well, so I think I'm just going to set it apart and prepare the part that I'm going to be using for piping on top. I'm going to grab back the portion that I had reserved from the beginning, and I'm going to add some pre-mixed titanium dioxide. This is pre-mixed with oil for easier dispersion. I feel that the titanium dioxide helps the soap batter gets thick, and because this one is going to be used for piping, it's going to help me get it to a thicker state faster so that I don't have to wait around a long time. I'm going to bring it to a medium trace to help with this as well. I'm now checking on the rest of the soap, and it seems to be at a light to medium trace, so it's ready to be poured into the mold. The mold, I made it with Legos. I wanted to make a tall and skinny mold, and I lined it with parchment paper. You can tell how the discoloration it's already beginning. The soap batter is looking more of a beige now. At this point, I also checked on what is going to be the piping, and it's still a little too fluid, so I gave it another quick blend with a stick blender, and I left it alone for a few minutes. I came back to check on it 30 minutes later. When I came back to check, it looked like it was ready. It seemed to be holding its shape, so I decided to put it on the piping bag. This is the tip that I will be using. I don't know the names of the tips, but it sort of looks like a drop flower tip, but I'm not sure. The one thing that I did is that I think I put too much piping into the bag. Like I put all of it, and later this gave me difficulty when I was trying to put it on top of the soap. Personally, I have never had peaches and cream as a dessert. I have bought oatmeal that is flavored as peaches and cream, but I didn't know that peaches and cream is an actual dessert, which is essentially peach slices and whipped cream. It sounds like something that I will actually enjoy very much, but I actually, before this soap, I didn't even know it existed. It does seem to be more popular in the South, and it seems to be a famous summer dessert, and that's why I thought this would be a good soap to include in my summer soap series. A couple days later, I tried to get it out of the mold. I did not insulate the soap, so I don't think it went through gel phase, and it was giving me a hard time trying to get it out. Fortunately, because the mold was just made with the Legos, I could just remove the bottom part, and I could see that there was some leak, and perhaps that was why it was stuck to the mold. After that, I was able just to push it out and also remove the paper. Interestingly enough, the soap seemed to have gotten the pattern of the Lego bricks, not only on the paper, but also when I remove it, I could see it on the actual soap. This wouldn't affect it because I was gonna plane it after all, so it's not visible in the final bars. But even if it had, I think it would have looked kind of cool. So this is what the bars look like. You can tell that the edges are beginning to show more discoloration, but I will take pictures as they discolor so you can see them after this